This is Linlithgow's tune, the anthem of the town. The rock and the row, the roke and the wee pickle tow, or just the roke. Whatever it's titled, it's a melody that Linlithgow calls its own. It's played frequently, of course, on Marches Day, and is always greeted with much acclaim. Whether played by flute or brass or pipes, it is recognisable as a song of praise, a tribute to the town's proud heritage, as the musicians march along the ancient high street into Linlithgow Bridge or down into the haven of Blackness. In the lead up to the marches, it's played on the two Deacons nights, and has been for centuries, by the present reed band and by its many predecessors, accompanying the borough's deacons and their attendants as they march 3 times round the old cross well. The deacons are no longer representatives of the town's trades, but locals from the town's many clubs, societies, fraternities, and a sorority. The roke is an ever-present accompaniment to the town's traditions and its ongoing pride in the past and its hopes for the future, aspirations borne by all the town's many organisations. But you will rarely hear anyone actually singing the words of the song. The lyrics are not original to the ancient air, and they don't exactly trip off the tongue. Unlike Hoyk, with its auld sang, Tiribus ye tiri Odin, or Selkirk's When the Roses Bloom Again, or even the Bowness Fair song, all with words that are belted out on their own special days. But Linlithgow's marching tune was not originally composed to be sung. It first appeared in published form in the mid-17th century, included in a collection of sheet music called Music's Handmaid, collated by John Playford, who operated a business from the Temple Church in London, where he served as clerk. Playford called the tune simply a Scottish march, and it was a popular refrain. He sold many copies, including one to the 17th century diarist Samuel Pepys. The music was also a dance tune, a 32-bar jig for a set of 4 couples. It was very popular at early country dance gatherings. Another name for the lively air was Lord Linlithgow's March. The nobleman in question may have been George Livingston, 3rd Earl of Linlithgow. He was a military man who, at the restoration of the Stuart monarchy, was colonel of the Scots Regiment of Foot Guards. Perhaps he led his men out of Linlithgow in pursuit of Covenanters to the tune which bore his name. He was next appointed Major General of the government forces in Scotland, and then in 1684 Justice General, a position he only held for 4 years, until the reign of the Stuarts ended with the arrival of King William. The 3rd Earl died in 1690, and he can be seen here buried in St Michael's Kirkyard. I wonder if his tune was played as his lead coffin was carried up the Kirkgate before being interred in the family vault. The words of the tune were added some 78 years after Lord Linlithgow's death, when they appeared in a collection of songs and poetry written by the author Alexander Ross, an Aberdeenshire schoolmaster. His humorous lyrics concern the antics of an 18th century Scottish housewife who is attempting to spin thread in order to make herself a sark, a smock dress. She was using a distaff and spindle, a simple spinning device, which involved placing a handful of yarn, the row, on a stick, the roke, which was then rocked backwards and forwards, while a heavy weight, the spindle, pulled the yarn into thread. The old wife in Ross's song inadvertently sets fire to her ball of yarn and laments the loss of the material with which she was going to make her simple clothing. She goes on in the song to complain that women are no longer content with homemade products, but want the latest bought fabrics and fashions. Alexander Ross was appointed headmaster of the village school in Lochlee in Angus, where he lived until his death in 1784. He may have gone lang syne, but he has left Linlithgow with words to the familiar Marches tune. Sadly, the words of the 6-verse song are in broad Scots and not the easiest to sing. Words such as "she choke it and boke it and cried like to mang" do not come naturally to our lips, but the tune is memorable and well loved. Let's hope it will not be too long before we hear it loudly echo again in Linlithgow streets.